The words hung in the air like poison. My mother stood in the doorway of what she called the family home, her arms crossed, that familiar look of dismissal etched across her face. "Did you hear me, Sarah? Your brother and Jennifer are expecting their second child. They need this house. You've had it long enough." I looked up from my laptop, keeping my expression neutral. "This is my home, Mom." She laughed, that sharp, cruel sound I'd heard my entire life. "Your home? Sweetie, this is the family home. Your father bought it years ago. Just because you've been living here doesn't make it yours. Besides, what does a single woman need with 4 bedrooms? Derek has a growing family." Behind her, my brother Derek smirked, already measuring the living room for his oversized furniture. His wife Jennifer was taking photos of the kitchen, planning her renovation. "I've already told the family," Mom continued. "Everyone agrees it makes sense. Derek needs the space and you can find a nice apartment somewhere. Something smaller, more appropriate for someone at your level." To my level. That casual dismissal of everything I'd accomplished. To them, I was still the quiet daughter who played with computers, while Derek was the golden child with his middle management position at a car dealership. "You have 2 weeks," Mom said firmly. "Derek and Jennifer want to be settled before the baby arrives. Don't make this difficult, Sarah. Family shares. That's what we do." He paused at the door. "Oh, and your father and I will be moving into the guest house out back. It'll be nice, all of us together again." After they left, I opened my laptop and pulled up a specific folder, one I'd been preparing for months. The folder contained purchase agreements, property deeds, tax records, and eviction notices for 3 properties, all signed and ready to be served. It started 5 years ago when my software consulting business landed a major contract. The money was life-changing, but I'd learned to keep success quiet. Any achievement was met with eye rolls. "That's nice, dear. Derek just got promoted to senior sales associate." So I stayed silent and invested smartly. Real estate. I bought this house from my parents when they faced foreclosure after Dad's business failed. I purchased it outright, let them live in the guest house rent-free, and never mentioned I owned it. They assumed Dad still held the deed. Then I bought Derek's house when he defaulted on his mortgage. He thought he'd worked out a deal with an investment company. He had no idea his little sister owned his home and had been his landlord for 3 years. The third property was Mom and Dad's Florida condo, their retirement dream they couldn't afford. Another quiet purchase through my LLC, Sullivan Property Holdings. I kept it all private because I knew my family. The moment they learned I had money, it would become family money. Every success diminished, every boundary violated. So I built my empire in silence, watching them parade mediocre achievements while dismissing mine. But now they'd crossed a line. They weren't just dismissing me, they were trying to take my home. I called my attorney Marcus Chin. "It's time." "You're sure?" Marcus had been advising patience. "They just gave me 2 weeks to move out of my own house." "I'm sure. I'll have the notices prepared for delivery tomorrow morning." The next morning at exactly 9 a.m., 3 process servers arrived at 3 addresses. One at this house where Derek was measuring windows. One at Derek's McMansion across town. One at my parents' Florida condo. My doorbell rang first. Through the window, I watched Derek's face go pale as he read the document. An eviction notice. 30 days to vacate 847 Maple Street. His address. For failure to pay rent to Sullivan Property Holdings LLC. "What the hell is this?" He burst through my door. "Some company is trying to evict me. They're saying I owe back rent, but I own my house." "Do you?" I asked calmly. "Of course I do. This is some scam." His phone rang. Mom hysterical. "Derek. Someone's trying to steal our condo. They're saying we've been renting from some Sullivan Property Holdings." "You might want to read the rest of that notice," I interrupted. Specifically the part about ownership history. Derek's eyes scanned the page. Property purchased from Derek Thompson on August 14, 2022. Current owner. Sullivan Property Holdings LLC, registered agent Sarah Thompson. His hands trembled. You own my house? For 3 years now. You defaulted on your mortgage. I bought it from the bank, created a payment plan through my company. You thought you were paying an investment firm. You were paying me. You let me think I owned it. I never lied. I just didn't advertise the truth. I stood up. Just like this house. The one Mom ordered me to vacate. Did she mention who actually owns it? The realization hit him. No. Dad was in foreclosure 5 years ago. I bought this house. I own it. You and Mom just tried to evict me from my own property. I pulled out a folder. You owe me $47,000 in back rent. Mom and Dad owe $31,000 on the Florida condo. None of you have paid in 8 months. We were going to pay. When? After you took my house too. I shook my head. The eviction notices stand. 30 days. Where are we supposed to go? Maybe find a nice apartment. Something more appropriate for someone at your level. The family meeting happened 3 days later in Marcus Chen's office. Mom had demanded it, threatening to get to the bottom of this misunderstanding. Marcus laid out the documents with clinical precision. Deeds, purchase agreements, payment histories. Every property they thought they owned, all legally mine. This is impossible, Mom kept saying. Sarah works with computers. She doesn't have this kind of money. Mrs. Thompson, Marcus said patiently, your daughter owns a software consulting firm with annual revenues exceeding $3 million. She's been the sole financial support for your family for 5 years. The silence was deafening. Sullivan Property Holdings is her LLC. She purchased all 3 properties legally and has provided housing at below-market rates. Some of you haven't paid it all in nearly a year. We didn't know it was her. Mom protested. Would it have mattered? I asked quietly. Would you have respected my property more? Or just asked for more? Mom's face flushed. We both knew the answer. The eviction notices stand, Marcus stated. However, my client is willing to offer an alternative. I debated this for weeks. Derek, you can stay in your house. Market rate rent, first and last month due immediately, plus the $47,000 in back rent on a payment plan. Miss one payment and the eviction proceeds. Derek's relief was visible, but Jennifer's face showed she was calculating. Market rate would stretch them thin. The back rent would be crushing. Mom, Dad, the Florida condo is being sold. But you can stay in the guest house here. My guest house on my property, rent-free as long as you respect that this is my home. And if we don't? Dad whispered. Then you'll be evicted like any other tenant who violates their lease. Mom stood abruptly. This is blackmail. No, Mom. I'm being a landlord. You called my career, playing with computers. You said I was at a lower level than Derek. You tried to take my house and give it to him. I faced her. I'm enforcing the same rules that apply to everyone else. Pay your rent or leave. What about family? What about loyalty? What about respect? What about acknowledging that maybe your quiet daughter built something real? The room fell silent. You have until 5 p.m. today to decide. Accept my terms or the evictions proceed. I left them in Marcus's office. Through the window I could see them arguing. Mom gesturing wildly, Dad slumped, Derek and Jennifer in heated discussion. 40 minutes later Marcus emerged. They've accepted your terms. Derek will have the payments by Friday. Your parents agreed to the guest house arrangement. How did they seem? Humiliated. Angry. Scared. He paused. But they signed everything. He handed me a note from Mom. We never knew. We should have asked. We should have seen you. Not an apology. But maybe the beginning of understanding. 3 months later, Derek's rent checks cleared on time. Jennifer had closed her boutique and taken a corporate job. Stable income reality. Mom and Dad kept to the guest house, quiet and diminished. The family gatherings stopped. The casual demands for money ended. The dismissive comments disappeared. Some would call this sad. The fracturing of a family. But I called it freedom. Freedom to build my business without funding everyone's fantasies. Freedom to live in my home without fear. Freedom to be respected even if that respect came from fear rather than love. Derek sends stiff birthday cards now that say, "Thank you for your patience with the payment plan." Mom texts occasionally, careful messages that never ask for anything. Dad sent a fruit basket with a card, "Proud of you." Finally seeing clearly. Too little too late. But at least it was something. I stood in my living room legally and completely mine, and replaced the old family photo with my magazine feature. 30 under 30 tech entrepreneurs reshaping real estate investment. Not the daughter they could dismiss. Not the sister they could exploit. Just Sarah Thompson. Property owner. Business owner. Landlord. And if they wanted to stay in my properties, they'd follow my rules. Family or not. I stood in my living room legally and completely mine, and replaced the old family photo with my magazine feature. 30 under 30 tech entrepreneurs reshaping real estate investment. Not the daughter they could dismiss. Not the sister they could exploit. Just Sarah Thompson. Property owner. Business owner. Landlord. And if they wanted to stay in my properties, they'd follow my rules. Family or not. 6 months passed. My business expanded into commercial properties. I purchased a small office building downtown, then another residential complex. Each acquisition felt like another brick in the wall I'd built between my old life and my new reality. Derek's payments arrived like clockwork now, the first of each month, never late. I'd see him occasionally pulling into his driveway as I drove past. He'd wave, awkward and uncertain. I'd nod back. We were landlord and tenant now. Nothing more. Jennifer had transformed. The corporate job suited her better than the boutique ever did. She'd gotten a promotion, started contributing equally to their household. I heard through Mom that they were doing better financially than they had in years. Turns out being held accountable forced them to grow up. Mom tried to rebuild bridges with small gestures. She'd leave fresh-baked cookies on my doorstep, never knocking, never demanding entry. Dad started a vegetable garden in the guest house yard and would leave baskets of tomatoes and zucchini by my garage. Silent offerings. Quiet apologies. I accepted them but kept my distance. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal quickly. Maybe it never fully heals. But I was okay with that. The real change came when extended family started reaching out. Aunt Carol called, asking about investment advice. Cousin Michelle wanted to know about my consulting business. Uncle Robert admitted he'd always thought I was the smart one, but never said it because Mom got defensive. The truth was spreading through the family tree like wildfire. Sarah wasn't the backup plan. Sarah wasn't the safety net. Sarah was the empire builder they'd all overlooked. At Thanksgiving, held at a restaurant, neutral territory, my teenage niece approached me shyly. Aunt Sarah? Mom says you own like a bunch of houses. I do, I confirmed. That's really cool. I want to do something like that. Something big. She glanced at her parents' table. Something that's mine. I saw myself in her uncertain eyes. The hunger for recognition. The fear of being dismissed. Then do it, I told her. And don't wait for permission. Build it quietly if you have to. But build it. She nodded, understanding passing between us. Derek overheard. For a moment our eyes met across the restaurant. He looked away first, shame coloring his features. Good. Let him understand what he'd almost destroyed. Let him remember what it cost to underestimate me. The family dinner was stilted but civil. No demands. No dismissals. No one told me where I should live or what I should do. They asked about my business with genuine curiosity now, listened when I spoke about upcoming projects. Respect. Finally. Even if it was built on fear and legal documents rather than love. As I drove home that night to my house, my legally owned, fully paid-off house, I felt something unexpected. Not happiness exactly. Not satisfaction in their suffering. But peace. The deep, settled peace of knowing my boundaries were secure. My empire was protected. My worth was no longer up for debate. I pulled into my driveway and saw the lights on in the guest house. Mom and Dad living on my property by my grace. Derek in his house across town paying my rent. The Florida condo sold, the money invested in my next venture. Everything I'd built. Everything I'd protected. My